Hello, in this video I'm going to introduce you to Adobe Animate and some of the tools and also frame-by-frame animation. So we're at the welcome screen when we start up Animate. If you're returning to a project you've been working on, you should find it down here. What we're going to do is create new. Click that create new button and we get this window that gives us some options. I'm going to choose character animation, 1920 by 1080 full HD, and I like the frame rate of 24 frames a second. So I'm going to make sure that that's all right and click create, and then we'll be in Animate. So here we are in Adobe Animate, and right now our project is unsaved, so I'm just going to save it on the desktop, and I'm going to call it frame, short for frame by frame. And the first thing I want to do is take a look at this window. This is the canvas where we're going to draw. On the right-hand side of it, I have this little drop box for sizing it. And right now I'm going to have it fit in the window so I can see the whole composition window in my canvas. Over here we have our timeline. Right now there's one layer and only one frame. So if I want my video to be 5 seconds long, I'm just going to roll this along to 5 seconds and I'm going to extend it. So Animate gives you a timeline of just one frame long. So if you want to extend it, what I'm going to do is right click on the PC or control click on the Mac, and I get some options here. What I'm going to use is insert frame. Notice also insert frame is F5. Now when I insert frame, it basically just extends whatever's there, which is that empty frame, to the basically the place where you're selecting, which is the 5 seconds. So I have 5 seconds empty frame. Now also take a look at the beginning here. We have a little circle that isn't filled in because there's nothing there yet. I'm going to start out by making a little bit of animation with the rectangle tool. So you can see we have our shape tools here. If I click and hold down, I can see some different shapes I can choose. So I'm going to click on the rectangle tool. Here you have colors you can set. Also, over here we have the properties window, and that's when you have a tool selected or when you have an item selected in your canvas, you're going to see properties for that item here. So I can set my fill color. Maybe I'll set it for this green. When you select a color swatch, you get this swatch of 256 colors. And of course, you also have the color picker here, so you can do more fine tuning with your color. The stroke, which is the outline, is black. I'm just going to leave that. I'm going to go down to my stroke size, though, and set it for 10. I can either roll along here to set it, or I can just type in the number here, 10, to set it for a 10 stroke. So I'm going to now use my rectangle tool. I'm going to draw a rectangle. So notice right when I drew it over here in our layer where there was an empty circle, now there's a filled in circle telling you there's something there. Notice that it's the same triangle that's for the whole duration here. This little dot is called a keyframe. If you want to change something in Animate, you want to make a new keyframe. But I'm not going to go ahead and make that new keyframe. I'm going to do a little animation with this rectangle. But what I'm going to do first is I'm going to select that rectangle. I can just click on the layer here. I'm going to even name this. I'll call it rectangle. So I'm just going to click on layer 1, double click where the name is, and then type it in. And now that it's all selected, notice that when I select it up here, it gets the fill and the stroke. I'm going to get my selection tool here. If I click just here, I got just the fill but not the stroke selected. So notice I'm just moving one but not the other. But if I click it up here, I'll get everything. So if I move it, notice it moves it all. So what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to turn this into a symbol and then do my animation inside of that symbol. Turning something into a symbol gives you the luxury of being able to make a loop or play it once or however you want to do it. Basically, it's making a little timeline itself of an item in your animation arsenal. It's also going to put it in this area over here called the library, so it can be reused. So when I have it all selected, I'm going to go Modify, Convert to Symbol. Notice it's also F8. And I'm going to call this rectangle. And I want to make sure it's a graphic symbol. That'll allow me to see it playing right away. And I'm just going to OK that. And there's my symbol. So notice it's in the library now. And if I want to add it again, I could just click and drag it. I'm going to undo that, though. So here I have my triangle, my rectangle. If I want to actually animate it, though, I'm going to double click on it. So notice now I'm inside the rectangle, which is inside of scene 1. And this timeline, notice it doesn't say rectangle over here anymore. This timeline is just for that rectangle symbol here. So what I'm going to do is add another frame. I'm going to just go right beyond this first frame. I'm going to right click. I'm going to choose insert frame just to repeat that one. So notice that it's repeated. But now I want to do something a little different. So I'm going to right click and I am going to insert a blank keyframe. That leaves an empty keyframe, a circle without anything in it. So now what I'm going to do is redraw the rectangle, but a little bit different than the first time. To see my rectangle that I had earlier, I'm going to click this button, which is the onion skinning button. That allows you to see what's on previous frame or frames, so you know exactly where to draw the frame you're drawing. So I have the onion skinning on. Even though I see that faint rectangle, it's not really there. I'm just seeing the onion skin. When I click on my rectangle tool, and I'm going to draw it so it's just a little bit longer, notice now this fills in and there's an actual rectangle there. Just going to add a couple more. Add a frame. This is called animating on twos, where I'm doing 2 frames of one action, and just draw another one that's just a little bit longer, maybe even a little bit thinner, just to see what it's like, and then add one more frame. Now if I go back to my scene, and I'm going to turn off my onion skinning, and I put my playhead at the beginning, I'm going to press the either the play button, which is up here on the timeline, or the enter key on the keyboard. So it's going to do that little bit of animation and then repeat it. That's what a symbol does, is it automatically cycles it, turns it into a repeated bit of animation. Okay, I'm going to add another layer now. I'm going to call this squiggle, because I'm going to make a little squiggle here. And for this, I'm going to use the pencil tool. Now, I'm going to go first to look at the different workspaces. I'm actually going to look up here for them. So I chose the animator workspace. I'm going to click this button, which brings it back to its default. And the tool I wanted to use, I had put here, but it's not here anymore, and that's the pencil tool. If there are tools, so we have all of our tools along here, but if there's one you want to use that you don't see, click on these 3 buttons here, and then you get the extra tool selection. So here's the pencil tool. I'm just going to drag this. I like to use the pencil tool. I'm going to drag it in place here next to the brush tool. Now, the pencil and brush tool are 2 tools that allow you to draw whatever kind of line you want to draw. The brush draws fills, so using the fill color. The pencil draws strokes using the stroke color, and then the stroke size that you have in your properties. I'm just going to click this to close that extra window, and so you can see I still have the stroke size of 10. So I'm going to use that pencil tool. Now, when you have certain tools selected, you're going to see options over here. So we have different options for the pencil tool. I'm choosing smooth. That's going to smooth out the movement I make to draw this line. So I'm just going to draw this squiggle a little bit like that. And just like before, I'm going to select it up here, select the whole thing, going to modify, convert to symbol, call it squiggle. And I'm going to double click on my squiggle that I drew so I can edit that. This time I'm going to animate on ones. So I'm just going to go and make a blank keyframe. Going to turn on the onion skinning, get that pencil tool. Now, if I'm always, when I animate, I'm going to keep on doing that a little bit. I always want to overlap things a little bit to connect things for the audience. And now if I draw a short line, it's going to go kind of slowly. I mean, I'm doing animating on one, so it's going to go slowly anyway. And insert blank keyframe. If I draw a longer line, it's going to go faster through that area. So blank keyframe, a really long line. Maybe I'll make one last one that's going to be a really long line. Okay. So if I'm going to turn off my onion skinning, go back to my scene, and just draw this, or just play it there. Notice that it's going really fast at that bottom of the rotation there. So there's lots of other tools I like to use. One is the line tool. I'm going to make a new layer here. I call it line. And I can just draw a line like this. But now the cool thing about it is that if I use the selection tool, I can shape that line just by clicking and dragging in the middle, or I can move a vertex of it by clicking on that line. So I can kind of make that line that I draw, and I can connect lines into whatever shape I want. Just a quick look at the brush tool here. I'm going to call this brush. So like I said, the brush tool is going to draw the with the fill color, so it's going to be a green line. Now, the nice thing about it is that if you have an extra tablet, you can set it for pressure sensitive. So basically, that's how this is set. So if you don't push as hard, you're going to draw a fainter line. If you push harder, you're going to draw a thicker line, depending on how hard you press on your tablet. So these are some basic tools. The last ones I drew, notice that they're not moving. I didn't turn them into a symbol. I didn't do any extra frames on them. And doing frame by frame animation with Animate. I'm going to save my project. Thanks so much.